Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And so, good evening to you all. I was almost on time. Um, Normally on Tuesday nights, I'm with Robert V on his channel, Milky Way. And but Robert's on the road, so I promised him that I would do a live stream tonight with stories. Hi, Pearl. Hey, Witch Moon. How are you? And good evening to you all. So this gives me an opportunity to read from a different book that Robert, I don't believe, has. And but Robert's on the road. We love him. Hey, Steve. How are you? Um, I just took all my meds and everything, and just got done doing a a lung treatment thingy. Hey, Chloe, and the meds are like ooh de doo de doo. So I'm not high, but I'm goofy. I want to get. Never mind. We'll do a 420 here in a little bit, but um, so there are some of these stories in here. It's not really like a story format. It's more like somebody telling this is what happened. And hey, Robert, how are you? Are you still on the road, my brother? Yep, you're on the road. Okay, I told you I'd be ready. I can't share the screen or anything like that, but I'm here and I'm wired as much as possible. Yeah, safe travels, Robert. We want you back. So, but anyway, so I did sort of get a picture of this. Um, it's Native American legends, Southeastern legends from the Natchez, Picado, Biloxi, Chickasaw, and other nations. Compiled and edited by George E. Langford. Now, George's name has come up in a couple of other instances that he has done research and things. So his name is, uh, I guess you could say, to be trusted, at least in his. I don't know of anybody that's really tried to argue against him on things. But anyway, um, so there are things that we talk about with the Plains Indians and so forth. And we've talked about the Iroquois and the folks up north and on the Canada border up there, our dear friends, them Chinooks up there. Um, I'm joking, but not. I have friends that from Canada, and I've been to Canada a couple of times, and a lovely place. And them folks up there, they well, they need help from some of their politicians. So in this particular, there are sections, um, and this particular section is about the tribes of people. And I thought I would, it's like chapter 6. So, of course, I would start in the middle of the book versus, chapter 1. But I wanted to read this little bit, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning, probably. Um, I think I need two pairs of glasses for this. So, hang on. I got to do my homemade bifocals. Chapter 6, Tribes of People. One of the cultural differences that strikes the European's mind when it confronts Native American legends is the attitude towards other species. Whereas Europeans tend to consider other animals and plants as subordinate creatures, and they do, Native Americans see them as people with minds and wills who must be dealt with in the same way as humans. Other species are structured in social and political organizations, much like the human tribes. So, species, they're talking about birds and animals and plants and rocks and stuff, okay? Species. Councils of animals make weighty decisions that have impact on human life, and peaceful relations need to be maintained across species as much as within the two-legged group. We have already seen that in the Southeasterners' view, the telling of myths is itself a human activity that must be done correctly if the humans are to avoid war with various other animals. Does that include humans? But anyway, humans made this attitude toward other animals part of their social organization. In the Southeast, every human was by birth a member of a clan because descent was counted through the mother. Her clan was automatically given to the newborn child. Each clan was understood to be in a special relationship with a particular animal, the clan totem. So each clan member lived in the awareness of certain taboos that must not ever be violated. Such taboos dealt with foods which could not be eaten and animals which could not be killed. One should never marry a person from one's own clan. As we might expect, legends surrounded each clan's totem, both explaining the characteristics of the clan and their relationships to each other. So, and one of the things that I learned from a legend keeper, Kashka LaRue, who traveled around and I've had the absolute pleasure to sit and dine with. And I've talked about Kashka before. And he was one of the legend keepers from the Tlingit tribe in Alaska. And we were talking one night, he said, you know, there are four major clans within the Tlingit tribe. And, you know, A, B, C, and D. If it is 1, 2, 3, 4. And so A and D could not marry, and B and C couldn't marry. And if a child was born out of, because of, you know, to clan members or who had shouldn't have done it, broke the rules, they would take the baby out on the ice and leave it. And I was like, what? And he goes, when we say no, we mean no. You cannot interrace with certain clan members and tribes. The answer is no. And if you have a child and because of that, nah, it just cannot live. And I was shocked. But and that's been, oh goodness, at least 20 years ago that he told me these things. And I was like, oh my gosh. But so we think sometimes that, you know, they're savages, but they were serious because of bloodlines. And they knew more about it than people gave them credit to. But anyway, so here is the origin story of animal clans from the Tuskegee Creek. And here we go. The old time beings were gathered together. They began acting in different ways and showing different qualities. Master of Breath observed them. Some began jumping upon trees and running about. Someone asked, what sort of beings are those? They are like panthers, someone answered. Henceforth, they shall go about as panthers, said Master of Breath. Then again, someone began leaping and running. What are they like? Someone asked. Like deer, it was said. Henceforth, they shall go about as deer, said Master of Breath. Then again, some went hopping high among the leaves of the trees and alighted on the branches. What are they like? Asked somebody. Like birds, someone answered. They shall be birds, said Master of Breath. Then again, some were very fat, and when they walked, they made a great noise on the ground. What are they like? Someone asked. Like bears, was the answer. They shall be bears, then, said Master of Breath. Then one again started off to run, but could not go fast. When he came back, he had black stripes near his eyes. What will that be? It was asked. It's like a raccoon, said one. That kind shall be raccoons, said Master of Breath. Then one was so fat and round bodied that when he started off, he could hardly walk. What is that kind? It was asked. It's like a beaver, someone answered. They shall be beavers, then, said Master of Breath. Then again, one kind was fat and could not run very fast. When this one had gone off to a distance and returned, someone asked, what's it like? It's like a mink. They shall go about as minks, said Master of Breath. Then again, one was very swift. When he started to run, he darted back and forth and very quickly. What is he like? Someone asked. Like a fox, came the answer. And thy kind shall be foxes, said Master of Breath. And then once again, there was very strong and could pull up saplings by the roots. He went off to a distance and returned, and someone asked, what's he like? Like the wind, was the answer. That kind shall be wind, said Master of Breath. Then again, one started off into the mud. When he came back out of it, someone asked, what is he like? Like a mud potato, it was answered. Such shall be mud potatoes, said Master of Breath. Then again, one of them had short legs and his back was covered with ridges. When he started out and returned, someone asked, what is he like? Like an alligator, was the answer. That kind shall then be called alligators, said Master of Breath. And then once again, the stripes on his back went running off. And when he came back, somebody said, what is he like? Like a skunk, was the answer. Well, then that kind shall be skunk, said Master of Breath. Then was the answer. Again, one went away jumping. And when he came back to the starting place, someone asked, what is he like? Well, he's like a rabbit, was the answer. Well, then Master of Breath said, they shall be called rabbits. Then once again, one animal went running off, squirming along on the ground, and when he returned, someone asked, what is he like? Well, like a snake, was the answer, and that type shall be called snakes, said Master of Breath. Master of Breath, after he had given them their forms on the earth, told them not to marry their own kind, but to marry people of other clans. All the red people know what clans they belong to and do not marry into their own clan. If clans were a very important fact of life in the Native American world, and that fact cautions us to be sensitive to the ways in which animals appear in apparently simple animal legends. Although it is doubtful that the specific connotations of animal behavior can now be interpreted properly, it is important to remember that Native Americans in early days would have heard the stories on many different, deeper levels, for each person was intimately identified with at least one animal. Now, nowadays, these stories, because white folks, don't have clans per se, they're not associated with any animal totem or any herb or spice or anything. So there's no recognition of this with white folk. And I don't mean that badly. I'm just pointing out that that's the way it is. So, native folks, because of their clans and because of how they look at Mother Earth and nature and four-leggeds and critters and so forth, they already have a particular natural affinity towards these things. So when they hear of, the rabbit or a tortoise or a turtle or something, hey, Michelle, how are you? Hope you all are doing well tonight. So now I'm going to the beginning of the book. Good, Steve. Traditional narratives of the American Indians have been of interest to outsiders since Europeans first discovered this new world. Indeed, on his second voyage to America in 1493, Christopher Columbus, boo, brought along Friar Ramon Panay for the express purpose of collecting all the data he could from the natives concerning their ceremonies and antiquities. The 2 years the priest spent among the Taino, a now long extinct tribe living in the present day Haiti. Long extinct is because they showed up and slaughtered them and took them as slaves. And anyway, um, a now long extinct tribe living in present day Haiti resulted in a slender volume titled On the Antiquities of the Indians, 1496. A work that has descended to the present in its entirety only in Ferdinand Columbus's Life of his Father. Although small in length, the little book's 26 brief chapters are filled with information about a variety of customs, beliefs, legends, and myths. Considering his profession, it is hardly surprising that Friar Panay viewed the Indians as ignorant savages. Remember, they're always considered ignorant savages who are basically believers in erroneous ideas. They were one point, however, in which they agreed with Europeans. The Taino believed in a supreme, immortal, invisible being whose dwelling place and habitation is in heaven. But this was as much as the missionary would grant, for with this true and Catholic knowledge of the true God, they mingled these errors, to wit, that God had a mother and her brother, Guaca, and others of the sort. Panay proceeded to catalog various Taino beliefs that he considered false or mistaken, illustrating them by examples of their myths. In the missionaries' view, these people had no beginning, for according to their tradition, even in the beginning, there are a lot of people who were confined to two caves. At night, they were watched over by a man named Marokal, who determined where the people would be sent. One day he tarried in returning to the door and was carried away by the sun. When the people saw what had happened, they closed the door, and so he was changed into stone near the door. Other tales told about the origins of trees, birds, women, the sea, the sun, and the moon, and the making of samus or idols. Now, the priest, the prior, calls them idols because they're not of Christian faith. Hey, Barry, how are you? So, an idol, now it's a depiction of a god, right? So, I've got idols around here, and here's one. Actually, some folks might get a little mad about this one, but it's an angel. Now, because it's a religious icon, this is not an idol. Okay. It's a garden angel, it sits here on my table, and she's holding a big butterfly. All right. And so, but if this looked like something else from the priest's point of view, the friar, Panay, it was an idol. So, of course, anything Native American that represented anything was automatically an idol. But something, a religious icon or a cross or Jesus, or, oh, no, 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 that was perfect. That was not an idol. You follow me? So it depends on the person who's doing the looking and who's doing the writing. So if it was of a depiction of something, I've got something over there, but I'm too lazy to go up and get it. But it's an incense holder, you know. So an incense holder over there that's next to a picture of Jesus. So when you walk in my door and make the turn, there's a picture of Jesus, and there's this icon that's Tahitian or something, and it's a little guy squatting down, and you put your incense there, right? But so ain't that a quandary? Well, wait a minute. Well, you've got an idol next to a picture of Jesus. Well, it's an incense holder. No, it's an idol because it depicts some. So it's a little squat guy that's holding it. How do you determine that it's an idol? It's because people have been trained. If it ain't a Christian something, it must be an idol. Okay, enough of that. But it's a two-way street. If one community looks at it this way, um, then somebody else is going to look at it differently. Now, one of the things I thought, because we read about the Plains Indians and so forth, and I thought it was interesting that here is alligator power, and it's Choctaw. So I would like to read this bit to you. He can't hear. Okay, sorry, Barry. So, alligator power by the Choctaw. One winter, there were many hunters living in a village, all of whom, with one exception, had killed a great many deer. But one had met with very poor luck, and although he often succeeded in getting close to deer, just ready to draw his bow on them, they always contrived to escape unharmed. He had been away from his village for 3 days, and during that time had seen many deer, but had not been able to kill a single one. On the third day, when the sun was overhead, the hunter saw a huge alligator resting on a dry, sandy spot. This alligator had been without water for many days and was dry and shriveled and so weak that he could scarcely speak. He was able, however, to ask the hunter where water could be had. The hunter replied, "In that forest, only a short journey hence, is a clear, deep pool of cold water. But I cannot travel alone. I am too weak to go so far. Come near that we may talk and plan. I cannot harm you. Have no fear," said the alligator. At last the hunter went nearer and nearer and listened to the alligator, who said, "I know you are a hunter, but all the deer escape from you. Now carry me to the water, and I will then make you a great hunter and tell you how to kill many, many deer." The hunter hesitated, and he feared the alligator. Then he said, I will carry you, but not unless I may bind your legs so you cannot scratch, and your mouth so you cannot bite me. The alligator rolled over on his back and held up his legs, saying, I am helpless. Bind me and do with me as you will. Then the hunter bound with a cord the alligator's legs and his mouth. Then he lifted the animal to his shoulder and carried him to the water. When they reached the pool, the hunter loosened the cords and the alligator plunged into the water. It went down, then returned to the surface 3 times, and then went down again and remained a long time. At last he rose again to the surface and spoke to them. Now listen, and as to do as I counsel you, you will become a great hunter. Take your bow and arrows and go into the woods. You will first meet a small doe, but do not kill it. Next, you will meet a large doe. You must not shoot this one either. Then you will see a small buck, but this likewise must be spared. Lastly, you will encounter a very large old buck. Go very close to it and kill it, and ever afterward you will be able to kill many deer. The hunter did as the alligator told him, and never again was without venison in his camp. That's the end abruptly. But here's the thing. The stories of hunters down here in the South, I don't know about how it is up north with folks hunting, but the story is always, if it's a small deer, you obviously don't shoot it. If it's a doe, depending on the season, now they have a big doe season here in Georgia, but I digress. Um, but that, then the young buck comes out, and then the old buck that really needs to be culled from the herd because he is so old. And so I've had many people, one of my adopted grandsons, that went hunting for the first time, and he said almost exactly, 2 does came out, so big one, small one. He said he waited. There was this young buck that came out, and he held his breath and he waited, and then there was this old buck was obvious, and that just stood there, and he said the deer presented himself to him, and he killed it. It was his first kill. So, in the old Indian stories, there is a tradition, though, of hunters that follow a very basic path, just like the story is told. So, take that for what you will in that understanding. But folks still respect that. So, in a way, the alligator story is similar in that the story about the snake and the brave. Of course, the snake bit the brave, but only to give it powers. So bear people. Now this is a continuation in here. The people. This is a story from the Alabama peoples. The people living in a certain town went about hunting. While they were doing so, some of them saw a white bear, but the others could not see it. By and by, one of the men hunting about killed the white bear and took it home. He returned with it, shouting and happy, and all divided it up, cooked it, came together, and ate it. When they got through, they played ball, being very joyful at their success. Then one man asked, Are you all glad? It is wrong to be so. Later, when this man was walking alone in the forest, a big bear stood in front of him and said, They have killed my chief. I am going to kill the people. If you believe me, tell your people. If they believe you, take them to the other side of the creek. When he got home, he told his people, and some of them believed him. And when he started to move, they followed, while others did not believe him, and they did not follow. After some time, a bear came to the people, and they killed it. Another one came, and they killed that. Still another came. Next, two came. Then three came. Then four came. The number kept increasing until 10 came. After that, more and more came until they destroyed all of the people. Afterwards, the man went out and the bear met him. It said, "Kill and eat us any time you wish, and we will not hurt you." These legends reveal a crucial fact about Native American attitude towards hunting. The ability to kill game is not so much a matter of skill as it is a question of power, granted by the animals themselves. This is important. Any hunter is therefore by necessity involved in close relationships with a variety of species of animals. Because of the close identification of humans and animals in Native American thought, it is sometimes difficult to tell when the stories about animals are entertainment, when they communicate clan information, and when they are mythic, in the sense that they tell of the ordering of the world in the primal time. Now, I would say that the stories about animals are all about respect and how, here's the killing of turkey, the killing of the deer. Now, all right, let me continue with this, and as it kind of continues here in the book, it's the next story down, and the overall theme is that these run together. So anyway, when as yet there were no other deer in the world, a fawn was made and kept in a certain place, and Wildcat was set to watch it. They said to him, "Let it grow a little bigger." Then he killed it, and they restored it to life. Next they set the wolf to watch it. After a time he killed it. They restored it to life, and they set the panther to watch it. They said to him, "Let it grow until it is almost as big as a buck." He killed it. Then they restored it to life again. Next, bird that sits on deer watched. While he was doing so, it became big. He sat on the horn and ate ticks, and every now and then he would fly away and come back. These pages are really thick. After that, the wind blew from the north. The bird flew away to seek shelter in the moss, and while he was asleep, the deer disappeared. Next morning, he did not know where the deer had gone and hunted for it in vain. He said to the people, "It is gone." The people wanted to find out where it was, so they assembled all of the prophets, the Sabali. They had made a yard and kindled a fire in the center, and for the same purpose they collected all sorts of medicines. One prophet sat down but could not learn anything. Another elder sat down to find out, but in vain. Still another elder sat down and could not discover anything. Last of all, they asked Flying Squirrel, who began by saying repeatedly, "I do not know anything. I do not know anything. I do not know anything." He flew upward towards the east and remained poised. He remained for a while and then came back to the ground. He flew up to the west, remained for some time, and came back down. He flew to the north, remained for some time, and came back down. Then he said, He flew to the south, remained for a while, and again came down. And then he said it is standing on a palmetto island in a small lake far off and in that direction to the south. Then they wanted to summon it. For that purpose, they gathered medicines and mixed them. They made a fire, and their elders stayed by it all night. And when it was almost day, they heard it approaching, trumpeting. It shook the earth like a railroad train. And then the men got their bows and arrows and stood ready to shoot it, with ghosts just behind them, panthers in the third row, wolves in the fourth row, and wildcats last. When the deer got close, the wildcats became scared and did not stand. They trembled. We much we want very much to defecate, they said, and ran away. When the deer arrived, the men tried to shoot it but did not succeed. The ghost hit it. The panthers jumped upon it and threw it down. With the help of the wolves, they killed it. Then the wildcats came running back and bit it in the throat until a man told them to let it alone. Now it is dead, he said. They stopped and sat down, licking their feet. Then the man procured sticks and tore the deer to pieces, whereupon each hair that flew out turned into a deer and ran off into the woods. Then all of the people started off and camped in another place. They went hunting, and when they came together again, the people had killed a deer. The panthers also killed one. The wildcats, however, killed and brought back a yellow mouse. Again, all went out hunting and came back, each with a deer, except that the wildcats brought a rabbit. The next time they went out, all came together again with deer, except the wildcats, and who killed and brought in a turkey gobbler. The fourth time they went hunting, all came together with deer, but the wildcats, who had killed and brought in a fawn. Abruptly ending the story. Now, for whatever reason, they have thrown in the mix here the origin of poison. Like, okay, this is a Choctaw legend or story. I told you these stories ain't really stories, they're just kind of narratives. So long ago, a certain vine grew along the edges of bayous and shallow water. This vine was very poisonous, and often when the Choctaw could bathe or swim in the bayous, they would come in contact with the vine and often become so badly poisoned they would die as a result. Now, the vine was very kind and liked the Choctaw, and consequently did not want to cause them so much pain and trouble. Interesting that a vine would want that. He would poison the people without being able to make known to them his presence there beneath the water. So he decided to rid himself of the poison. A few days later, he called together the chiefs of the snakes, the bees, the wasps, and other similar creatures and told them of his desire to give them his poison. For up to that time, no snake or bee nor wasp had the power it now possesses, namely that of stinging a person. The snakes and bees and wasps, after much talk, agreed to share the poison. The rattlesnake was the first to speak and said, I shall take the poison, but before I strike or poison a person, I shall warn him by the noise of my tail. Then, if he decides not to heed me, I shall strike. The water moccasin was next to speak. I also am willing to take some of your poison, but I shall never poison a person unless he steps on me. The small ground rattler was the last of the snakes to speak. Yes, I will gladly take your poison, and I will also jump at a person whenever I have a chance. And so it was continued to this very day. The care with which this legend discriminates between the characteristics of poisonous snakes reveals both the Native American respect for snakes, killing them was taboo, and their intimate knowledge of them. So, snakes are revered, by, well, lots of different clans and lots of different areas. And so, white man comes along and kills all the snakes and upsets the ecology and ticks off the snakes, by the way. But, so the vine did not want to, and I've heard a similar story, and I'm trying to remember where the plant did not want to have the poison, because it couldn't warn anybody, not just the natives, but also the four-legged and other creatures that would brush up against this vine. So, it's interesting that the vine said, hey, look, you know, I don't want to be this poisonous. Somebody, y'all help me out with this. Mark the Ark, hi, how are you? So, native folks of all areas have shared with the understanding, that four-leggeds and trees and everything, plants and animals all worked together back in the day. Now, I'm just going to continue reading. The next part of this is from the Biloxi, and it's the killing of turkey. The wild turkey was killing very many human beings. He took their scalps and wore their hair as a necklace. Therefore, the turkey has a tuft of hair at the present day. He took off the fingernails of the people and strung them, wrapping the strings of nails around his legs. Consequently, a turkey's legs are now covered with ridges just above the feet. The people could find no way to kill the wild turkey because he ran so fast. Therefore, they set the dog on him. And the dog did not have to run very far before he caught the wild turkey and killed him. Then men made a dinner in honor of the dog. They told him that he should be eating the very best kinds of foods, but they had there all kinds of food. And then the dog said, I'm going to eat the food which others have, of which others leave. And the dog took some mush which was there, went aside, sat down, and spent some time eating it. Therefore, dogs do not eat the best kinds of food, but those which are regarded as inferior or which is left. So much, that's the story. But what happened to the turkey? They killed it, ate it, the dog. Anyway, these stories are very abrupt in their endings. I guess you could say they're very abrupt in their beginnings, too. This next one is about um, hang on. Owner of the animals. It's a couple of pages and should wrap us up for the hour. How you doing, Mark? The Arc Spark. This is of Cato. In those times, the people had little to eat. There were two people, a man, a woman, known to the people as the buzzards, who lived at the north end of the village. And the people noticed that they always had plenty of meat and other things to eat, and they wondered how they got it. Time passed until finally Coyote came among the people and told them that he was going over to visit the two people and find out where and how they got so much meat and so many other things to eat. In those times, the animals that were living with the people had some magic powers, and Coyote had power. He said, in order to find out where and how the buzzard people get their food, I must scheme. After studying, he resolved that he would imitate a dog, and so before he came to the buzzard home, he turned himself into a very small and fine looking dog. He stayed away from the buzzards and watched, and his opportunity to place himself where they would find him. One time the buzzards had gone out some distance from their home for some purpose and were returning when they found the little dog by the trail. The woman liked the dog, but the man said that it was not a real dog, but someone else. The woman did not believe her husband, and the man allowed her to take the dog home with him. When they reached home, he told her that they must find out whether this was a real dog or not. He told her to pinch the dog's ear and see if it would howl like a dog. So the woman pinched the dog's ear, and it howled like a dog. Still, the man did not believe that it was a dog. He told the woman to go and get some meat and give it to the dog, saying that if a dog would take its time, but if it were not a dog, it would eat fast, that he would know whether or not to believe that it was a dog. Coyote stayed with him until their meat gave out. Then he watched them very closely. Finally, the buzzards began to talk about going after more meat. Coyote listened. At length, they started out and left their dog at home. They thought the dog would stay at home until they returned, but Coyote had a scheme. So he followed at some distance so they could not see him, and he watched them very closely. When they came to the place where they usually found their meat, Coyote found out all about how and where they got it, then ran back to their home and lay down, so that when the buzzards returned to their home, they found their little dog lying there fast asleep. Coyote stayed with them 2 days longer, and the third day he made up his mind that he must carry out his work. Early one morning, he started straight to the place where he had seen the buzzards at work. It was a large cave or hole in the ground. The door of the place was a large rock. When he came to the place, he opened it, and out came thousands and thousands of buffalo. They came out so fast that before long they had spread all over the western prairies. Before the buzzards knew it, it was quite a time before Buzzard discovered that what had happened. First, he heard a strange noise like thunder. He went and looked for the little dog, but in vain, for the dog had already gone. He heard Coyote howling in the distance. Buzzard went out and found that nearly all of the buffalo had escaped. When Coyote went to his home, he told the people to hurry and make some bows and arrows, for the buffalo were coming. He told them just what had happened and how he had schemed. Buzzard was very angry at his wife and scolded her. He told her that she ought to know by this time they, that they were not the only ones that had powers, and that henceforth the only way that they could make a living was to go around and look for dead meat. In order to do this, they turned into birds and became real buzzards. They flew around and looked for dead things to eat. Somehow I fail to see where this has anything to do with the owner of animals. Um, was another story that I had heard before, and I didn't know that it was buzzard, but that um, the buffaloes were kept underground. I don't know which tribe or clan and whatever. It's cloudy down here, Chloe. La bella luna. So, I do not understand where they get this, the owner of the animals. Um, anyway, here's one. It's called Crane and Hummingbird. And because I like hummingbirds, and I haven't seen any recently, but I'm sure they're still around. Heron and Hummingbird agreed to race. They said to each other, "We will race for 4 days. And whichever first on the fourth day reaches and sits down by a big tree standing on the bank of the river shall own all the fish in the water." When the time came for the race, Heron started off, while Hummingbird went along or stopped as he chose. While he was going about tasting the flowers, Heron overtook him and went on past, while Hummingbird, when he got ready, went on and overtook the Heron. He passed him, and when he got a considerable distance ahead, stopped and tasted the flowers again. While he was flittering about, Heron kept on, reached him, and went on past. But while he was going along, Hummingbird overtook and passed him once more. When the night came, he stopped and slept. Hummingbird sat there asleep. But Heron traveled on all night long. He went on past, and when the day came, Hummingbird chased him and again barely overtook him. They went on, and the night of the fourth day, Hummingbird also slept. He sat where he was until morning and then started on. But when he got to where the dead tree stood, Heron had reached it first and was sitting on it. When Hummingbird got there, Heron said to him, "We agreed that whoever got to the dead tree first should own all of the water. Now all of the water is mine." Because Heron said to Hummingbird, "You must not drink water, but only taste of the flowers when you travel about." And Hummingbird has since merely tasted of the flowers. This is how it has always been told. There are stories of big people and little people, and for some reason they just uh, start right in. Uh, the middle world is inhabited by more than just the animal people. There are various strange beings who also have to be dealt with, including dangerous monsters and the little people. The belief in such creatures can be found expressed in the traditions of most societies, of course, but the elaboration of detail about them in the Southeastern lore indicates the large role they played in Native American thought. In summarizing Southeastern mythology, it is noted that stories of monsters clad in bone, stone, metal, or scales are very characteristic of the region. The monster is usually a cannibal and is finally slain by persons or beings who have learned the secret of its only very vulnerable spot. The culture hero often appears as the slayer. Here is one story called Stonecoat. It's Yamasee, Cherokee. Ocosta, Stonecoat, was one of God's helpers. He was sent to help the Cherokee people. He had, however, much evil in his heart as well as good. When he got to Earth, he was walking through the woods looking for the Indian village when he saw a man with two sticks, the bow and arrow. The man pointed to one of the sticks at a deer, and the deer fell down. Ocosta ran over to the deer and pulled this little stick out. On the end of it was a flint point. Ocosta decided that if a man could kill a deer with a little point of stone, that he might not, pages are sticking together, might not be safe walking around. So he went about picking up bits of flint and made a coat of them to wear. Ocosta had only one magic power, and this was the power to disappear. He could not disappear, however, in the presence of men. Ocosta soon made many bad things for the Indian people to follow. He made witches and other bad things and went about in spirit form from one village to another, causing trouble. The people soon decided they didn't like this fellow, and so they devised a way to get rid of him. At that time, there were 7 villages or clans of the Cherokee, so each village sent a moonsick menstruating woman to a place where Acosta was often seen to pass. Soon indeed he came along through the woods. All 7 women laid down in the woods undressed. Acosta came and saw the first woman. "Oh," he said, "you should be ashamed to be seen like that." Then he went on and saw each of the others in turn. Soon he became sick from seeing so many moonsick women. When he came to the last one, he fell down and became sick from seeing so many. When he came to the last one, he was so sick he fell down on the ground, and the woman jumped up and pulled back a bit of the flint on his coat and drove a wooden stake made of basswood through his heart to hold him down. Then all the men gathered around, and Okaska said that he would leave the earth soon and to burn his body with sour wood. Then he began to teach them songs and dances that would please God and help the tribe in their hunting and winning wars and healing the sick. To some men he gave great power, and these were the first medicine men. And his body burned up, his spirit began to rise up, and he was still singing as he ascended. He had created evil and then sacrificed himself to save the people from the evil that he made. Interesting. Now, the little people from the Creek Indians call them Itztilupetiski, or the little people, but distinguish 2 sorts, one being longer, the other shorter in nature. The taller ones are called, from this very peculiarity, Itzitasaposki. The shorter or dwarfish ones subdivide themselves again into smaller. Both are archaic terms no longer understood by the present generation. But Itu Uf means in the woods, and the whole designation of a probability signifying found in the deep forest. So they were so is the case of and the cause of a crazed condition of mind, which make Indians run away from their lodges. No others can see these last mentioned little folk except the Indians who are seized in this manner by a sudden craze. Now, I got to say that here recently, it seems like the incidence of seeing of the little people, because I've just seen evidence here, especially since I've gotten out of the hospital from my heart attack. And oh, by the way, I got the bill for my heart attack, and it's $49,995 and some odd cents for a week stay in the Colquitt Regional Hospital. $49,000. Okay. Anyway, that has nothing to do with storytelling for tonight, but and it has been an hour. I'm running low on energy tonight, so I'm going to stop here. I hope that these stories were of benefit and of interest to y'all. I know they're really strange compared to some of the other myths and legends that I've been reading out of the other books. So, for Robert V, if you're still listening, price of a new truck. Yeah, my house and land isn't worth that much. My house and land's only worth 49. So that week in the hospital, I guess I'm just supposed to sign off. I don't know. I'll work it out. But $49,000, $995 and change for a week. Now I appreciate what they did, but they came in and took a chest X-ray that was $1,000 for one chest X-ray in my room. $1,000. Oh man, I will not get into this because this is this is a show about Native American legends. So I love you all, and I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And you're welcome, Chloe, and all of y'all that showed up this evening to support the stories, and also just to say hi. You're welcome, Michelle, and all y'all. I might do something later. I don't know. I need to get up and walk around a little bit. And thank you, Mark. Good to see you. But I continue to pray that each and every day, along with me and Duggar, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the hiccups and the blessings from the universe. I love you all. Peace out. Cheers, everybody. Has a blessed evening, and I may come on later. I need to walk around. I need to finish my treatment, and um, and so say so. But anyway, I'm going to take a break. It's been an hour. It's what time now? 11:07. It might be an hour for if I come back on. So it's been they've been rolling around in my head. So if I'm back, it'll be before 12. Okay. Anyway, I love you all. Be safe. Cheers. And ta ta for now, my friends. Be safe. Until next time. Love you. Bye.